Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi there. Welcome to New Life Live. Glad you are with us here today. Steve Arterburn here with Becky Brown and Milan Yurkovich.
Hey, great to be with you. Happy Friday.
It's great to be with you guys. You're always sharp, bright, helpful. And in the month of January, it is important to be helpful because January has come to be known as divorce month. And I don't know if it's people waiting for the new tax season or, I mean, some people they want to like get through Christmas together and then they divorce, or the stress level of the holidays just finally say, forget it. And then many people, they just give up. And I got to tell you, we have hope, so much hope for people that think there's no other option but divorce. And I hope and pray you would just come and be part of our intimacy in marriage intensive before you give up. If you want to divorce, come to this first so you can say, we did everything we could. We did the thing that's helped more people. It's the most effective thing. And then you can walk away. And I got to tell you, every person that I've talked to personally that I've challenged them to do that, they are married today. And statistics show 5 years after you pull it together, you are happier than the people 5 years later that went ahead and divorced. Now, that's not me talking. That is science. I hate to even refer to science. It's gotten such a bad name recently. But anyway, come get fixed at the Intimacy in Marriage February. It's a month away, February 11th,
You know, one
12th,
of the
13th.
things that we hear about the Intimacy in Marriage workshop all the time is the practical information that the couples receive. You know, you can go to any place and get, inspired to have a better marriage and, to think positive and renew your vows and all those kind of things. But when you get back home, how are you going to have a conversation? How are you going to get through the next struggle? And we give you those tools, and we see amazing results thanks to you and Milan. And Kate.
Well, here's the most valuable material that you don't get other places. When you go back home, you are not going to have a perfect relationship. You are going to make a mistake, or you're going to fall back into a pattern, and you're going to, what we will tell you, you're going to rupture the whole thing. What we help you with is how to repair that when it happens.
And sometimes you don't even have to be at the divorce level, right, Steve? We have so many couples that choose to come to Intimacy in Marriage because they want the very best marriage that they can possibly have. And if you make that decision, that could be the best thing that you do in 2022. Little rhyme for you.
And I don't know if we are able to do it this time, but in the past we've been having these engaged couples come and do a group. And maybe that's happening now. But I'll say this, if it's not, you could go online when we do it later in the year. But people that do it early in the marriage and then they see all of the things that result from taking the easy path or the quick fix or whatever, they say, I don't want that. And they really go to work early on. But you know what? Early on, more and more we're seeing people that have things that need repairing, need healing. And I hope and pray wherever you are, whether you need a better marriage or you need to keep one together, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and just ask about Intimacy in Marriage Intensive. Ask for a scholarship if it's a financial issue. We've had some people who had such a great experience, they want others to have it too. All right, 1-800-229-3000 to join us. We'll go to calls right after this here on New Life Live. Happy Friday to you.
We We have been estranged off and on for 10 years or more, and he has a lot of grievances and anger and bitterness and hatred toward me.
We've been having little disagreements here and there about grandmom's input.
Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Fearless Parenting, Doing Life with Your Adult Children. It's an online workshop we're holding on Saturday, January 29th. Jim Burns, longtime friend and colleague, he's president of Homework, and he's going to join me.
You invested 2 decades of your life with your children, and you've got to figure out how do you reparent and reinvent the relationship. It's not easy, but it's possible, and it can be better than ever.
With insightful teaching and the guidance of a credentialed New Life counselor, this one-day online workshop will provide practical advice and hopeful encouragement for navigating the parent-adult-child relationship. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, Steve Arterburn here, and before we go to our first caller, Mylan, you wanted to make a comment about the workshop that you and Kay and myself do. What is that?
Well, I like to think of it as a 48-hour intervention. You see, interventions make us wake up. They sort of startle us and pull us into a reset mode. They reset our compass and bearings. And it is also something that is something different that pushes me into a zone of reflection. So I like to consider it an intervention for 48 hours that really wakes us up and helps us reset.
Well, you know, another thing is if you're willing to go and you think the other person is the problem, you can just go without telling them, I think you're the problem. And you can say, let's just go do this and let's get better, which is really a great thing.
Becky, isn't an intervention, Becky?
Yes, I love that image, because one of the things about our workshops, whether it's intimacy in marriage or any of the other ones, you are coming away from your everyday life, even if on the online, and you are focused on examining what is true about me, what are some wounds that I am leaving unresolved, and how are they impacting my life? And is this the life that I want to live? I think about in the marriage workshop, the marriage intervention, maybe we'll change the name, right?
Yeah, marriage intervention.
Right, where the couples come and they realize the thing that they've been fighting about isn't the thing at all. That is the problem. And I love when the light bulbs go on and people start to have a pathway to healing and connection. And it's, of course, I know I'm subjective, but I've seen years and years and years of couples go through this workshop and have a better marriage on the other side. So call us today.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. It really could just give you the best marriage you never even dreamed of.
Right.
So please do. I want to talk to Betty. Betty's calling us all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. And Betty, welcome to New Life Live. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for asking, and you?
Yeah, we're doing very well. I always enjoy, Mylan and Becky and I, we've known each other for almost a century. So it's always great to get to be
at
with
least
them,
collectively.
And they're so good at what they do. But how can we help today?
Well, I'm calling to get some advice. This year, I have been open and honest to my family members about some things that have been going on before I was born. Long story short, when my mother got married, she was pregnant by another man, and my father married her off of the possibility that the baby could be his. Well, of course, the baby was born, and the baby is not his, but they're holding this fact from my sister. My sister and my mother, my sister has always been my mother's favorite, and so I have been mistreated by not only my sister, but my mother as well. And because my dad is in ministry, he's been so consumed with ministry that he hasn't been able to witness these things, or maybe he's just been passive on addressing these things.
All right. So what's the question for us then?
Well, the question is, I have asked my parents to tell my sister the truth, and that came about after my mom in her late 60s, her father, and it put together some pieces for my mom, and I just saw my mom become a whole person, knowing who her father was, and I want the same thing for my sister, and I want my dad to realize that, the truth needs to be told. So I sat them down to express how I felt, and long story short, my dad said in front of me, he left it up to my mom to tell my sister that fact. My mom says she'll never tell my sister this fact. And, it's just created discomfort and chaos for me.
Okay.
Knowing that I'm my father's only child,
so
and they don't want to admit the truth. And it's hard for me to sit up under leadership.
Okay, hold on.
Knowing that he was... Go ahead.
But you're not his only child. Your sister is his child, too, even though he's not the original genetic material. That's his child,
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
Absolutely. I'm not asking him to not be her parent. I've held this secret for all of my life because I want her to have that portion.
Okay. Well, let's hear from Becky and then Mylan about the issue here.
Betty, how is it that you know and she doesn't know?
Correct.
No, how is it? How did that happen?
At the age of maybe in my early teens, my dad kind of pulled me to the side, and he let me know, my sister is my mom's favorite, pretty much. And my mom looks at me as his favorite, even though he's never been partial. He's always tried to love us equally. And my sister as well, they always blamed my father for me being his favorite and things of that nature. And we're just two different kids. And so my dad told me in my teens that, that my sister wasn't my biological sister, and that's what was going on. And I said I'd never revealed that fact. And
wow, that's a lot. That's a lot for a teenager to have to shoulder.
Yeah.
Family secrets are never helpful, and especially when there's some triangulation going on, trying to kind of explain away favoritism and then exposing this huge information. I personally think it's never a good idea to keep secret someone's origins. We deserve to know where we come from, but not in a retaliation. And it sounds like this is still a problem in the family, even though, I don't know how old you are, Betty, but you obviously are old enough to not live under their roof, right? You guys aren't teenagers anymore?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I moved out of our house.
Go ahead.
I moved out at an early age of 18 because I knew I had to get away from the mistreatment of my mother and my sister. And I didn't know how I was going to make it. But by God's grace, I made it out of there. And it's just a very toxic relationship with the both of them. And my dad has always trained me to, move forward in love, turn the other cheek. But I'm always turning the other cheek. But when we go on family vacation, my sister wants to physically fight me at times. And
I'm so sorry.
Our family vacation this year was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, I can't keep being around. This situation is not good for me. And to grow up in the church,
right?
I was always my mother made me look like the bad sheep in front of the whole congregation. And here it is, I'm nearing almost 50 years old because my mother always wanted to build up her child and always wanted to put down.
All right. Well, we hear the struggle and the pain. Now, I'm wondering, have you ever gotten any kind of professional counseling over this horrible treatment that you've had?
I tried to call a counselor this year. It was a Christian counselor that I found online. And when I told him the story, he told me he would call me back when my insurance renewed in January. And I haven't heard back from this individual.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to hear from Mylan. You look like you're ready to share here. What is it that you want to say to her?
Well, Betty, I'm not sure that your sister knowing this information would change how she treats you or how your mother treats you. I don't know that that's an intervention that would, I don't know the purpose of it at this point. I realize it's as Becky said, it's a very large burden for you to shoulder individually, and for only you and your dad to know that. I think I would come back to your mom and dad at some particular point in time and say, the problem, Mom and Dad, is that, Dad, you told me about this, and it is unfair that she doesn't know about it. I had actually had a relative who never knew who her real dad was, and the rest of the family did, but she didn't. And that I always thought that was horrible. I was, of course, a teenager at the time, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. But I think what I would do is I would not go on family vacations anymore. I would create a Declaration of Independence and require that there be sincere changes and apologies before I would ever commit myself to any elongated or protracted time with them.
And I want to make a suggestion to you, Betty. I want us to help you find a counselor. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to suggest that this not be the time that you tell your sister or demand that they tell her. Here's what I'd love to see. I'd love for you to get some help, and I'd love for you to have some healing underway, because this is really, really painful for you, and I can see why. And then when you did demand it, if you still need to demand it, or you tell her yourself, it's not going to feel like you're doing it because you're hurt or angry or
retaliatory.
Yeah. Right. And so I'm just thinking this isn't the right time. Now, also, I want you to come to this emotional freedom workshop that we're doing on the 22nd. And it's online, so you don't have to go anywhere. But I think that's going to help you deal with this severe pain also. Becky, what are you thinking here that might be helpful?
Sometimes you can't make things up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, what you're talking about, Betty, is stranger than fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yet the reality of your life has become this burden that you have carried. You love your mom and dad. You love your sister. Yet the pain that you are experiencing within this relationship is overwhelming you. And I think, we talk a lot on the program about detachment and becoming an individual within a community. And I think when things are as confusing as your family is right now, that it is very hard to understand why they would treat you that way, why this is all set up, and that causes that emotional distress. I agree 100% that you need to go to our emotional freedom workshop. You need to have a place that you can process this and then create a plan going forward for healing and how to be in relationship with people who are painful, even though they're your family. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening that have a similar situation. You know, the details are different, but man, families can be challenging. And especially if you've been carrying this for so long, your wounds are like gaping, and you need, some intensive care and then ongoing therapy, and it will make all the difference. And then, like you said, Steve, then you can make the wise choice of how and when the message will be relayed.
All right. Now I'm going to send you 3 resources. In addition, we're going to support you through this emotional freedom workshop. But I'm going to send you the emotional freedom workbook. I think that will help you. I'm going to send Healing is a Choice also, and I want to send you Take Your Life Back. And if you would read all of those, it's going to help. And then you come to the workshop, you follow up with a good Christian counselor, and you're going to be in a different place over this. 50 years is long enough.
Absolutely.
And I am just really, really sad for you that the burden of knowing this and having to keep it a secret, you've been carrying that around. No wonder it's so upsetting. And then the mistreatment. It doesn't matter who the sperm donor is or what are the circumstances. Cruelty and someone being mean or beating you up, that should never be allowed by your father. He should not have allowed that to happen through your mother and the sister.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back. Let's go to Michael, St. Louis, Missouri. He listens on Sirius XM channel 131. Of course, that comes on at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Michael, how are you today? How could we help?
Good, just fine. Thank you.
What's going on?
Yeah, about 20 months ago, I met a lovely lady at my church. I had been single for quite a while. I'm retired, and she was just so sweet. And about 4 months into the marriage, I experienced anger. The anger was just unrealistic, and I didn't know what it was about. And a friend of mine said, you need to read a book by a guy by the name of Richard Scarrett. He's a psychologist. It's called Walking on Eggshells. So I got into that book. I found out that possibly my wife may be narcissistic. It's escalated since then. About the last 15 months, some violence, trying to beat me up, and then verbally, emotionally, and mentally abuse. And I'm to the point right now that I pray every day for her deliverance. But when she was younger, at about 14, she ran away from home. Her stepmother would lock up the refrigerators of the kids when they came home. They didn't have any food. So she was just living out in the fields. The authorities picked her up, put her in detention for 2.5 years. She was rebellious and angry.
Wow.
I found this out later. And evidently, it's continued, the anger. And she's an elder in the church. I mean, she can hide it pretty good.
Yeah.
When I get home, I'm the target.
Yeah.
And it's been very difficult. I'm at the point right now of actually separating, but I haven't made that decision.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the question for us?
The question is, how do I mentally deal with this? I pray about it. I mean, I can't change her.
Right.
What do I do?
Okay. All right. Well, Mylan, you want to start us off here? This is one of those situations where a person, particular personality of whether it's borderline or whatever, they're one way when you're dating, and then you get married, totally different. What do you think is his best hope?
Well, Michael, I'm so sorry. It is such a disappointment. And a person like your wife can absolutely be as charming could ever possibly be. They can just knock your socks off. And the sad part is when they switch on you. And we had a call a couple of weeks ago on the radio here at the show where a guy was talking about his wife being very angry and abusive and violent toward him. And I said, was she very passionate when you first met? And he said, yes. And it is a horrible bait and switch for you to be in. Mm-hmm. Sadly, did you say she was an elder in the church?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And I did counsel with the pastor about her behavior. He had no idea she was that way. And
okay.
And in that position.
Okay, so Michael, this illustrates something that the qualifications for an elder in 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1 required that we look behind closed doors at the behavior of the individual being selected to be an elder in the church, because the pastor had no idea. And this is one of the capacities a person like your wife has. They can really turn on the charm when they want to. But then when they are behind closed doors, they really flip into a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. And I think, sadly, Michael, a separation is the right choice. To be able to create a boundary to say, look, I do love and care for you, but this is unacceptable, and I'm giving you a choice to get some help. If you want me, you'll have to get help before we're going to stop the separation. But you said something so important, that she had a traumatic childhood, and she's going to have to face that and deal with that. She's going to have to really work on that. And I would really make that a part of it, and I would try to really pull the church in to helping you with this, and have the church be a part of the enforcement.
Yeah. Well, when you hear what she's been through as a child, it's understandable horrible that she could be very, very different in a lot of ways than a normal person because of this horrific time during the developing years of her life.
Right.
And if she's she's still trying to survive that.
Right.
Exactly, Steve. Exactly. And I think also, I don't know, Michael, did you say that she had been married before, or were you married before?
I was. My wife left me many years ago, and her husband died about 6 years ago.
Okay. So the reason why I ask that is because sometimes in situations where people are carrying old wounds, intimate relationships trigger those unresolved wounds. And this is the reason why she can put on a good face outside of the home, and then inside you're getting everything because you are the safe person. And so she's going to push in order to see what she can get away with. And I don't mean that as a cognitive decision. It is totally reactivity that she's got going on inside. You both need some help in processing even a separation, because that's gonna rattle her as well. And I think there's always hope. We have to be, we have to go in a certain direction. And Michael, I'm sure this is pretty overwhelming for you because it's a surprise that she's this way.
But the staying superficial is the way she's survived. Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. A lot of people are you could literally say, in bondage from past trauma that has created an emotional web that they don't understand, and it prevents them from being free. A person that loses their temper regularly is not emotionally free. Someone who has anxiety just to get in the car and leave the house is not emotionally free. And walking around with the shame from a childhood or even a bad relationship as an adult, that is not emotional freedom, and we can help you get there.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Workshop is Saturday, January 22nd. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie McHarris will present information on the power of our emotions, procrastination, guilt and shame, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or register online at newlife.com.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of the Life Recovery Bible personal size, the 1-year Life Recovery Prayer Devotional, the New Life Journal, a New Life pen and highlighter, and a New Life zipper tote to hold it all. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here, and well, like many men, it's not just the woman that is in the bad place, but here Michael is in really a tough situation. Mylon, you had another comment you wanted to make.
Well, the very point of Stop Walking on Eggshells is that you have to create a line in the sand and stop tiptoeing around and trying to avoid their anger and their wrath. But I want to expand a little bit on what Becky was saying, that for a person like this with an attachment wound of abandonment, where they were abandoned by their caretakers, when they first meet you, Michael, they idealize you and think that you are the most amazing individual in the whole world. And then they fall in love with a fantasy of this idealization they impose upon you. And it is their fabrication in their mind. Then behind closed doors, when you show frailty and you somehow are a normal human being that has shortcomings, then they become angry and they believe you duped them. And as I say in our workshops and in my office, no, you didn't dupe her, she duped herself. That is, she believed something and she fell in love with a fantasy. And then she's highly disappointed when that fantasy isn't true all the time. So I think it's really important to understand that this is because of the brokenness that Becky was describing in her experience as a child. She wants to have those ideal circumstances, and then she believes them, and then she's disappointed, and then sadly she becomes angry instead of looking at her own lens and realizing her own lens is distorted.
You know the story of Captain Cook in Hawaii? When he showed up and he had white skin, they thought he was a god. And he allowed them to think he was a god. And then there was some kind of scuffle, and someone hit him with a rock and he bled. And it proved he wasn't a god, and they killed him. And when you got married, you bled You showed her you're not super. You can't save her. You're not God. And that's when everything changed. And sometimes that happens 4 weeks after marriage, sometimes 4 minutes after the ceremony. So, Becky?
After they eat the cake, right, Steve?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also thinking, Michael, in just a brief mention of your previous marriage, this has to be tapping into your own fears of how did this happen again? How did I not select someone who I could share my life with? And I don't know if that's true for you. Yeah, well, I figured it might be, because this is so much, right? You waited to, you dated a long time and you thought this is really going to be good. And then all of a sudden it's blowing up. And I really want to encourage you. This is not unresolvable at this point. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And then you can make those choices. But just like Mylan said about walking on eggshells, that book, it literally is about how do I make decisions that may upset somebody else and learn to tolerate that or to be safe. Because here's the thing, her reactions aren't good for her either.
Right.
And that's really the challenge in this situation.
Well, and the other thing, there's so many bad books about this. We've got a book, Understanding and Loving a Person with Borderline Personality Disorder. I think it's really going to help you understand it. But there are books that say, well, just reassure them you love them and then tell them the truth. Well, you can tell them that you love them, and while you're telling them that, they're thinking, he's about to tell me something that proves he's absolutely wrong and I'm right. And they're ready to go after it. I'm really glad you called. A lot of people in this situation, and if you are, you can get this book, Understanding and Loving a Person with Borderline Personality Disorder. Also, there's one on narcissism and bipolar depression. There's sexual addiction. We've got something that'll help you. Larry Sonnenberg's in the studio, and Larry, we need people to help us, and so talk to us a little bit.
We always do. It's a treadmill, and I think God makes it that way because He wants us to be dependent upon Him. And, and our dependence upon Him and the answer to that comes from you with your support, and financially and otherwise, prayerfully. But if you can help us, Every Man's Battle Club New Life membership, or a one-time gift, or just another regular gift that you make, however you want to give to New Life financially, we'd love to receive it, and it means that we can continue to do what we are doing. And God, we see God honoring and blessing what we do. That's why we keep at it. That's why I tell my friends I don't have a problem asking people for support, because this is such a passion. We see an amazing response to the efforts we put forth, and God blesses it, and it's just simply amazing to see life change. And
I received an email from a donor the other day, Larry, that she gives through Club New Life, and she wished that she could give as much as she felt that she had received from New Life. She felt like her giving was a grain of sand. And I responded to her, I said, we'll take all the grains of sand that we can get, because that's how we are able to continue to help somebody.
And I wanted to just highlight, we have 5 workshops coming up between now and the end of February. And a lot of times I bring in testimonies, but there's not time to do 5 testimonies. I just want to remind you, we're going to do a parenting workshop aimed at adult kids. Every Man's Battle for guys, whether you call it addiction or just a slip, come to that. Intimacy in marriage. We can't say enough about what Mylan, Kay, and Steve do at that workshop. A range of issues, and whether you are in deep doo-doo in your marriage or whether...
Well, I wish you wouldn't use such technical terms, Larry.
Yeah, I was going to say,
where did that come from?
Or whether you just want a checkup and a once a year checkup in your marriage, or if you're engaged thinking of getting married, we'd love to have you. And then Emotional Freedom Workshop, whatever your struggle is, wherever you're stuck. And then Restore for the women you've been betrayed. And yes, it was the husband that caused the issue, but you've been hurt, and there are issues in your life that we can help you with. So.
And in our marriage intensive, we talk about men who've been betrayed too, Larry, because there are women, for every man who commits adultery or there's a female involved, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that is a concern. But let me also say that when I listen to this show and I'm driving around, what they say right after the show is this show was paid for by New Life Ministries. Yeah. And so in order to be on the air, we have to pay for the airtime, which is a lot of money per year. And that is how people hear about us and then hear about the workshops, et cetera, et cetera. It's the main conduit by which New Life speaks to the world. And I think it's important to understand that happens because of people's generous donations.
And there is a reason that we're on radio while other people do podcasts, is because it is the way to reach so many people. And when larger ministries than ours decide that radio isn't cost effective, then we're not going to do it either. But I got to tell you, it is so cost effective, and we're so grateful to get to be on radio, and it is the thing that reaches so many folks.
Well,
Larry, anything else you want to say? Yeah.
Well,
Becky,
Steve, I want to say something about the radio thing. Is we just had a caller that earlier today that said, I just happened to turn on the radio and there you were. And he called us and he shared his pain and we were able to give him help. And if we weren't on a radio station, then people wouldn't be able to hear us. So I'm grateful for all the radio stations that we are able to be on and reach people who otherwise would not hear help or hope for their life.
Okay, can I do one more commercial? Okay. It's interesting because I love talk radio, but so much of talk radio is about politics and cultural issues. This is about relationships, emotions,
healing,
and it's about growing as a person and healing as individuals and healing in relationships. And I don't think there's any other show like this. And so that's why it has tremendous value.
Yep. While you're listening to the other stuff and groaning, other people are listening here and growing. And that's what we love. Larry, anything else you want to say before we go to a break?
Just that it's a big deal that we're in our 34th year of ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I just want to let people know this is a stable, well-managed, functioning organization. And we need to keep it that way, and your gifts are what help us do that. So thank you very much, everyone who's been giving or will give.
Thank you. 1-800-NEW-LIFE if you need help or if you could help us. And we'll send you the 365-day life recovery prayer devotional. We'll be back.
I came into this thinking that my husband was the cause of many of our issues.
The New Life Intimacy and Marriage Workshop is coming to Southern California February 11th to the 13th.
But after learning about our attachment styles, I understood how our past hurts were playing into our present problems.
Join Steve Arterburn.
It's been a dream of mine for a long time to help people to grow more intimately together, and we believe that everybody has room to grow in the intimacy level of their life.
And Mylan and Kay Yurkovich.
We help couples understand how their attachment style is sabotaging their current relationship. And then we teach them how to create comfort in a relationship.
And New Life's group counselors will help you focus on the area that will benefit your marriage most. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Here at this workshop, we had our first ever conversation without yelling, blaming, and accusing.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You're a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in the biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here. Let's go right back to the phones. Talk to Carol. And she's calling from Nashville, Tennessee, listens on Sirius XM satellite radio. Hi, Carol. How are you?
Hey, doing good. How about you guys?
Doing okay. Don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to get to your call here in the final segment of New Life. What is going on?
I appreciate that. Well, so I have a 15-year-old son. He's the last of 6 kids, and he's the only one left at home. And my biggest concern is there hope that I will see some of those characteristics that he had when he was younger come back to him? Since he was diagnosed with OCD, he has ADHD, and when he was 12 is when we started to see this OCD appear. And now, just over time, he started to become just less compassionate for people, hypercritical. So my question there is there hope that those virtuous characteristics that I used to see when he was younger will reappear as his brain matures? And the other question is, do I continue to make him go to church? He starts on Saturday nights. Do we have to go? And we get up and go on Sunday. And, all of his siblings, we may go to church, and none of them go now.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering about those two questions.
Okay.
I can't get him motivated.
What kind of treatment is he getting for OCD and his ADHD?
He takes medicine for both of those, and those help. And I also homeschool him, and he has dyslexia and dyscalculia, and we've done biofeedback, and I think that helped a lot with anxiety.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's not getting any ongoing counseling. He has had some cognitive behavioral therapy stuff years ago.
Well, how confident are you that he's getting the right dosage or the right medication?
Well, we've had to work with it off and on, since second grade, third grade. He's been ADHD from third grade, and then when at 12 years old, we started the OCD medication. But I'm pretty confident. I mean, we talked to a psychiatrist, pediatric psychiatrist through Zoom.
So, Carol, what kind of friendships?
2 or 3 times a year.
What kind of friendships does he have?
Yeah, that's another factor. He's an introvert, so he doesn't really get charged by groups for sure. We've made some headway this year because I really strongly encouraged him to take choir, and so he's made shifts through choir that he wouldn't have had, and I think that makes him happy. They invited him to do some things over the Christmas holidays, and that, forms these where I said, if you hadn't done that, if you hadn't done choir, you wouldn't have had those invitations, to do that. And
right.
I think he had a lot of fun, and
So your question is there hope that he could be the loving, responsive son that you remember? I would say the hope.
And the reason I would say that.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the reason I asked that is before he was diagnosed with his OCD, he would pray and talk to God, and he had a relationship with the Lord. And once he got OCD, he used to have a lot of reoccurring thoughts and stuff, and that killed that relationship. And so he hasn't gone back to that. And in the process, he became a teenager. His whole interest, or what he looks at on his phone and on the computer.
Okay, so what is the best advice that we have for her? One thing I want to say is that if there is a church in your town that has a great youth program, then maybe that's where you ought to give it a try for him.
Well, that's
one.
The other thing is our church does have a large youth group, but he's never connected with any of the students in that class, in that group.
And then, so the first thing then I would be calling the youth leadership to come and visit, have dinner with you.
Maybe even Young Life, Carol. There are Young Life groups all across the country, and I know there's one in Nashville, and they're a great organization. I think your question is there hope? Well, of course there's hope, but I think that you're going to have a therapist that he likes, that he will work with to create some strategies for his life. You're in a time of change. You mentioned that your other children are not following suit with going to church, and so he's got this in front of him that this is just the way he's going to go. I would be more focused on how to hear from him about what he needs and then go in that direction. I know that sounds counterindicated, but really and truly, the more that you want for him to be the way you think he needs to be, he's going to shut down more. And so you've got to look for places where he can be able to say, I need to have some structure that helps me focus on school or focus on connecting with somebody. But that's, I don't know if that's helpful for you, but that's where I would go.
Yeah. Mylon, anything you want to add here?
I do. Carol, what happened to him that kicked his anxiety into gear? I have to believe.
Well, I mean,
he's the last of 6, okay? And so what happened to scare him or overwhelm him? Did any traumas occur, or with a big T, big traumas, or chronic little traumas?
No, I mean, other than his anxiety related to his dyslexia, and I've homeschooled him ever since second grade to try to reduce that anxiety. Yeah. But there were not any big traumas. I mean, we moved, but he's been sheltered for the most part. Okay. Unlike his siblings, they all went to public school.
Well, I think Becky's given you some really great advice. It's a great clinician can really unlock so much that's in there that's so good for him. And I'm going to send you Mylon and Kay's book, How We Love Our Kids, will be helpful. And I'll tell you, we've been a part of Young Life, and it is absolutely a great organization. And if you're struggling church-wise, it really can be a great thing, whether you're struggling church-wise or not. Before we go, I want to mention that tomorrow night I'm there at Trinity Church in Mesa, Arizona. 4 to 8 o'clock, January 15th, is the men's barbecue. They're giving away a Traeger grill. I'm hoping that I can win that. And then I'll be preaching on Sunday morning talking about help. How do we get it and live with it and make the best of it? Love to see you there. If you need help, our number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and we have these amazing workshops coming up, intensives, because these don't just have talkers, but we have therapists who help us deal with individual issues. And the next one, the closest one, is on the 22nd. It's Emotional Freedom with Chris Williams and me online. Then on the 29th, our Fearless Parenting, and that one also is online, and it's all about adult children. And then intimacy, we do Every Man's Battle February the 4th, then Every Man's Battle, then we'll do Intimacy and Marriage February 11th, and we'll do Every Man's Battle again in March, but February 4th, Every Man's Battle, Intimacy and Marriage February 11th, and Lose It for Life Extensive. It's our 6-week experience, not just a weekend. That's on March the 19th. That's online. And oh my goodness, that's going to be so helpful. If you need some help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's the number. We want to help you. And I thank Mylon and Becky for all the help that they've given to everybody, including me, over the years. See you next time. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.